Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Mountain View. I'm Greg Long, filling in for Crystal Davis today. I hope you're having a good day where you're at. It's kind of overcast here in beautiful Murphy, but I love the temperature. And today's show is a little special. We've got a guest today that's here to talk to us about some people that we take for granted as a society, but he's got a heart for people and you'll understand why in a few minutes. But this is my friend Dan Miller. Dan's not only my friend, he's my brother in Jesus. We go to the same church. His wife and I do the cooking ministry, and he takes care of the heavy work. It's, because the old guy can't do it, so the older guy does it. But I have to throw that in here. But Dan's here to talk to us today about something that's near and dear to his heart, and it's really near and dear to my heart because I can show you some correlation later on. But Dan's here to talk about Warrior Clan. And Dan, thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me,
Glad
Greg.
to see you, brother. Dan's Warrior Clan is helping veterans. It's veterans helping veterans. And some of us older guys remember back in the day when veterans were coming back from the Vietnam conflict and they were kind of forgotten. But it's not just them. There are a lot of veterans out there that it's not necessarily that they need help, but there is an organization now that if a veteran needs to contact another veteran for some services, Dan's got it hooked up, and he's going to talk to us about that today. So tell me about Warrior Clan, and well, first of all, tell me about Dan. How did you get? Dan served in the Marines, and just tell us a little bit about how you got involved. What led you to that, and where you served, and just bring us up as fast as you want to.
I had an opportunity to serve in the Marine Corps. I joined when I was 18 years old. Served as a scout dog handler, which that particular MOS doesn't even exist anymore, which tells you how old I am.
We won't talk about old age in this show today.
Thank you. I served in Vietnam. That's what I did the entire time. My first hitch with the Marine Corps, point with a scout dog, to alert on enemy ambushes, booby traps, clear tunnels, that kind of thing. Got out, did a law enforcement career, completed that, and started doing contract work for the government with the anti-terrorism program, which is everything I learned in the Marine Corps. I had an opportunity to put it to work later on. Served a year in Bosnia, took my wife with me.
It's a wonder the war is not over with
Yeah,
Mary being in
Bosnia,
but that's all we'll say today. But I'm going to suffer for that one, I can tell you.
And continued training foreign operators ever since that time, both here in the United States and overseas. 2009, I went back with the Marine Corps as a GS-13 with an infantry battalion and served in Afghanistan. Counterterrorism, counter-IED work, and worked with their canines. Again, I was probably the oldest Marine in Afghanistan. So I was blessed in that respect because I had an opportunity to help some of the younger Marines.
Right.
After I realized I was too old to still hump a rucksack and chase bad guys, we have started what we refer to as a Warrior Clan. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it because if we can let the veterans here know, and there's an awful lot of them here in Western North Carolina,
Right.
that we exist and what we are and what we're not. And being in the paramedical field and in law enforcement and as veterans, we have really the only people we can truly communicate with are other people in that profession. We're a little bit reluctant, like we had talked before about.
Right.
You come home after a hard day's work, last thing you want to do is sit around the dinner table and talk to your family about some of the stuff that you've been exposed to.
Yeah, it was not a good idea for me to, as a paramedic for 40 years, you just didn't come home and say, "Hi, how's dinner? We worked a terrible car wreck today. It was awful." It's just
Right.
not, and it's not dinner party conversation. But you're exactly right. It's Dan and I've talked before, and our paths are similar. His was military, mine was public safety, and then his was military public safety, basically. But you belong to a little fraternity, whether you're a firefighter, a paramedic, a police officer, or somebody like that. And even the military, the guys that serve and the people that serve here, we saw things that human beings should never see. We've seen people, in their worst conditions, and the general public, they just don't understand you can't just talk to them about your experiences, because a lot of people, it's revolting to them. They can't believe
Right.
that you know, when you start talking, and I'm not talking about war, but some of the carnage you see in an auto accident or a plane crash, or some of the things that I've seen in my life, which you really shouldn't. That's just not party conversation. But I'll sit down and I can talk to Dan about anything, even though, you know, he was in law enforcement, I was in the fire EMS. But I can talk to my brothers about them. So that's that fraternity thing that he's talking about. And I believe that's what Warrior Clan's bringing about.
That's exactly it. It's veterans helping veterans, and it's all eras. We've got World War II veterans, Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, Grenada, Bosnia, Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan. So we're covering all the bases, and you having covered a little bit of it, what we're finding throughout history is, regardless of what era you come from, when you come back from combat, is you carry it in a different way, and a lot of people hold it in. A lot of people deal with it differently. Some people don't have as many problems as others, and a lot of it depends on where you served,
Right.
what you did, and your personality. How do you handle it? But what we have learned from it is we all have one common bond, and we're brothers and sisters as a result of being a veteran, and we understand the problems that people have after they come back from combat. A lot of people are dealing with what they faced, and it all networks together. We've got over 300,000 veterans homeless in this country today.
It's ridiculous.
We've got 1.4 million that are about to become homeless. We've got 47% increase in domestic violence with veterans. Their alcohol and drug abuse is off the charts. We've got 22 veterans killing themselves every day in this country. If you think about it, between now and lunchtime, there'll be a couple veterans that are going to take their lives. And those are statistics that we don't like, but we're working together to try to face them. And it's proven that the programs that we have work. Veterans simply talking to other veterans and working with each other. And so those are our goals that we're kind of looking at right now. And we've got a lot of good response from here in Cherokee County. Our first meeting, we had 23 veterans show up, and we've accomplished a lot in the very first meeting. There's a misconception that you have to be dealing with a lot of problems to come to these meetings or to come with our outreach program, and that's not the case. If you're a veteran and you're welcome, and we need you, because there's something that you can provide. You may not think that you've got anything to provide, but by your mere fact that you're there and you can help somebody that does have a problem, that's a treasure, and that's what we're trying to tap into.
Would you say, and not to be political, but you know I'm not afraid to be, but it's my opinion, and I'm not a veteran, but it's just my opinion that the country has failed our veterans. They have, you know, they've tried, but you hear so much about, I know that you go, but I've got some friends that have to deal with going to the VA hospital. And some of the stories you hear, it's just, it breaks my heart, because I'm patriotic. I love this country. I believe that this is the greatest country in the world. God's blessed this country. And guys like Dan and the others that go out and fight for this country. And you know, to me, why do we glorify sports figures and people like that, and the guys that are keeping us free, we just kind of, we forget. I guess that my problem is it seems like we've forgotten. People have forgotten the price that has been paid for this country. And to me, I just feel like the government has not, in my opinion, I may be totally off the wall, but I think they've missed the boat in a lot of places with dealing with our vets.
Everybody has their own opinion. Personally, I think that our veterans feel like they're professionals, and that's their job. They're going to do the job regardless of the politics.
Right.
And that's what I've seen throughout my career, and that makes me proud to be an American and to be a Marine. There's a 900,000 backlog of veterans medical in the waiting.
Wow.
And we've got so many young veterans now coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that the system's just clogged up. And it's disturbing when we see glory given to some people that possibly may take for granted what the term hero is
Mm-hmm.
and celebrity statuses. But again, I think our veterans and our military operators are professionals, and we'll carry on just as we have since the beginning of this country. They're doing some great things here locally. They're erecting a flag and memorial down there at Conahee Park. The Marine Corps League is down there right now, laying the bricks and establishing that memorial, which makes you feel good to know that the local people recognize it and are doing something positive in that respect.
Sure. Hey, we're going to take a short break here run through a few messages, and we'll be back to talk with Dan more about Warrior Clan and how you can spread the word to veterans you know and what maybe you could do to help. Stick around. We'll be back with the Mountain View in just a minute. Thank you.
They march to the beat of a different drum, a mixture of old school classics with some down-home service and feel, and a modern day funk that will blow your socks off. Jackie Jones, Dodge Chrysler Jeep of Hayesville. Give them a call today and let them help you find your rhythm. Jackie Jones, Dodge Chrysler Jeep of Hayesville, North Carolina. Come get some rhythm.
Ed Singleton, owner of 15 Subways and Singleton Food Services Incorporated since 1991 in Georgia and North Carolina.
Bobby Dodd. Coach Vince Dooley.
Calvin Johnson.
AJ Green. Eddie Lee Ivory. Herschel Walker.
Georgia and Georgia Tech fans may not agree on football, but
we all love Subway.
Yeah, not a big fan of the seatbelt. Especially in this summer heat, it's just so not comfortable. I don't need a seatbelt. You know why? Because I'm focused. I'm right here. See that? You know why that is? I took karate for 6 years. I got reflexes like a cat. My sensei told me that, like a cat. I think he said cat. He had kind of an accent. Yeah, think about the seatbelt, dude. It's just one of those things that the government does to control you, you know? You don't need a seatbelt. It's just like one of their inventions that just don't make sense, like vaccines or, you know, preschool. Preschool. I think my biggest problem, besides lack of common sense, is that I think the nighttime darkness hides the fact that I'm not wearing a seatbelt, you know? I don't know, I just want to feel free. Dude! You don't think they noticed that, do you?
Cops and checkpoints are everywhere.
What do you mean I wasn't wearing my seatbelt?
Do we always get along?
No.
Usually in the kitchen we do, though, don't we?
Most of the time.
So,
Home cooking with a down south feel. Easy home cooking with Greg Long, only on Local TV 4.
she's letting me cook. Hey, welcome back to the Mountain View. I'm Greg Long, and thank you for that last commercial. It was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Oh, my staff is just great. The people I have to live with. Thank you, Jesus, for what I've got, okay? And that beautiful blonde on there, she is not available, so anyway. Hey, we're back with Dan Miller here talking about Warrior Clan and what they can, how it got. He's going to tell us how they got started, but it's veterans helping veterans, and it's something that I think is worthwhile, and I'm just going to let Dan go. Tell me about how Warrior Clan originally started.
It started about a year ago, very informally. A gentleman by the name of Russ Connor. He is a investigator for the correction for the district attorney's office here in Western North Carolina. And we had some ideas on what we wanted to do. He initiated it up near Waynesville. It hit the ground running. Since we are so far west in the state, and a lot of our veterans can't make it to Waynesville and Asheville and some of these other places, we decided we would start our outreach program here locally in conjunction with the group in Waynesville.
Right.
So we meet the first Tuesday of every month at Journey Church, which you and I know where it is because
Yep.
that's where we go.
It's on the hill. On the hill with the big cross.
Behind the old Ace Hardware store.
That's right.
Where the big white cross is. Pastor Pat's been kind enough to let us use the fellowship hall there. So we meet the first Tuesday of every month at 1900 hours. And
Now, for those of you that weren't in public safety or in the military, that is 7 at night, okay? 1900 is 7. Or Mickey's hands, little hands on the 7, big hands on the 12. Okay, sorry.
it's okay. So we meet there once a month, very informal, round table discussions. We talk about some of the issues that our veterans have here locally, how we can address them. I'll give you an example. We had one veteran there at our very first meeting. He had problems finding employment. He was dealing with some post-combat issues. He had all this experience that he had developed in the military, which is common. They come home to civilian life, and then they can't apply their experience to find a job. I know times are tough all over the country, but if you can imagine what it's like to be a veteran, having served your country with X amount of years of expertise in a certain field, and then coming home and not having any work. That networks into alcohol abuse, drug abuse.
Right.
Mama's not happy, kids aren't happy, domestic violence, could become homeless, and a big contributing factor on suicide rates.
Right.
So all of that networks together, so that's what we try to look at, talk about, fix it as best we can. We're very informal, we don't have any dues, we don't have any requirements other than the fact that you're a veteran, and it's not necessarily a combat veteran. We've had feedback where some veterans say, well, what can I provide, what can I do? If you're a veteran, we need you. Maybe you can cook. Maybe you can tell us how you dealt with a situation after you got back home. So all of that works together. And then if you do have a problem, we understand because we're fellow veterans.
Right.
If you get on a phone line and try to call these various organizations, you may get on that spinning wheel and wait for an operator or call this or punch that number. And to us, we're going to develop a phone tree where if you got a problem, you can call one of our fellow veterans.
Right.
And it'll be an instantaneous response. If it's a domestic issue, we'll come over and talk with you. I'll pay for a motel room. Get you out of the house, chill out for a little while. We're going to work with local law enforcement, ask them, hey, do you know any veterans that are having problems? Here we are, this is what we can do. Because they're going to be, as you well know, a lot of times them and the EMS guys are going to be the first contacts that they have with people that have those problems. We're starting a jail ministry. Joe Moran has been in touch with the Sheriff's Department, and we're going to institute that jail ministry again. So, and along those lines, I want to thank Pastor Pat and Journey Church for allowing us to use the church for our meetings. We're a Christian-based organization. Our Christian values are strong. Matter of fact, part of our motto on our logo is Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron. A man sharpens another. And that's us. I mean, and that's where we're going to find our power and strength. We're not going to shove any religious stuff down people's throats, but I'm right up front about it. We're strong Christians, and I'm not going to back away from it.
Yeah, it's Dan and I were talking earlier about, and I have to throw my Christian bent into everything because that's who I am. But we were talking earlier about how it is so amazing to see people nowadays that aren't afraid to talk about what they believe and talk about their belief in Jesus. And I use Facebook a lot, and I'm sure a lot of my friends are amazed that I finally turned out okay because I'm seeing the same thing with them. But it's, one of the things that I think is really amazing is here's a gentleman that served his country. He was a Marine. tough Marine guy, but he loves Jesus. And to me, that's just phenomenal to see how that works. We were talking a little bit earlier about Jan Griggs with the VA. Can you give us a little bit about what Jan's?
I would.
She's doing a good job, I hear.
She's doing an outstanding job, and I'm not just saying that because she's a fellow Marine, but
Semper Fi, though.
She hit the ground running here. She has helped multitudes of veterans. Started out maybe only 1 or 2 days a week. Thank the Lord, the county commissioners and some of the elected officials recognized the need and what a great job she's doing. So she's not only working 3 days a week now, I believe, but she's also got a colleague that fills in the 2 days that she's not there,
Oh, wow.
Sarah Jenkins.
So she's got it covered all
Right.
the time.
So now veterans have a service rep here locally, 5 days a week. She is phenomenal. I can't say enough good about her. Mike Casey, he helps our veterans with employment, works here locally at the unemployment office. He has helped us tremendously. I can't say enough good about him. And we all know, again, unemployment here, especially in western North Carolina, is an issue.
Yeah, it is.
So he does what he can, and he's expanding every day. I think his job just changed, and he's still seeking different ways he can help our local veterans.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because western North Carolina is beautiful. It's a beautiful place to live, but it's tough unemployment-wise, especially if you're, like you said, service people come